Hey everyone, and welcome. So, we are swimming in a sea of information every single day. But how do we actually turn all that noise into something useful? How do you get from a giant, messy pile of raw data to one single smart decision? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down today. We're talking about the data analytics cycle, a super powerful, structured process that literally transforms chaos into clarity. Here's how we're going to tackle it. First, we'll get a handle on what data analytics even is. Then we'll dive into how the cycle gets started, see how all that data actually turns into action, and finally, we'll wrap up by understanding why this loop, well, why it never really ends. Sound good? Let's jump in.
Okay, first things first. Before we can start walking through the cycle, we've got to be on the same page about what we're even talking about. So, what is data analytics, really?
At its core, it's all about sifting through information to find the hidden stories. The trends, the patterns, the interesting connections. But the most important part of this whole definition is that last bit, to support decision making. See, the goal isn't just to find cool facts, it's to uncover intelligence that actually helps you make smarter choices. I love this analogy. Think about it. A doctor doesn't just hand you a list of your symptoms. No way. They analyze them to figure out what's really going on and then recommend a treatment. A data analyst does the exact same thing, but for a business. They diagnose its performance and help map out a course of action. So how does this all happen? It happens through a really clear, structured cycle. And this, right here, is our roadmap for today. We're going to walk through every single one of these stages, starting with gathering the raw materials and taking it all the way to monitoring the results of our actions. All right, let's kick off the cycle. These first few steps are all about the prep work, the foundation. You can't build a solid house on a shaky foundation. And it's the same idea here. You just can't get good insights from messy, unreliable data. This is where we lay all that crucial groundwork. Step 1, collection. This is where you're gathering all your raw ingredients. This stuff can come from everywhere, databases, customer surveys, you name it. And the data itself can be structured, like a nice, neat spreadsheet, or unstructured, like a jumble of text from customer reviews or images. The main thing is to gather data that's actually relevant to the question you're trying to answer. And now we come to what might just be the most important, and let's be honest, the most time-consuming step of all, cleaning. Raw data is messy. It's just full of duplicates, typos, missing bits of information. This step is all about tidying that up. You've heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out, right? Well, this step is what prevents that from happening. If you skip this, you could end up basing a huge $1 million decision on a single typo. Seriously. Okay, once our data is squeaky clean, we can finally get to the really fun part, exploration. This is our first real peek into the story the data might be trying to tell us. We use things like charts and basic stats to just get a feel for the landscape. Are there any crazy outliers? Are there some interesting peaks or valleys in the sales numbers? This is where that initial detective work really begins. All right, our data is prepped, we've explored it a bit, now we're ready for the next phase. This is where things get really cool. We're moving from just looking at the data to actively questioning it, using some pretty powerful techniques to uncover those deeper insights. Step 4 is modeling. Now, the goal here is really twofold. We want to either predict something or explain something. We use different statistical techniques to build a kind of mathematical version of a real-world process. For example, we could build a model that predicts what our sales will be next month based on how much we're spending on ads. This is where we start building that incredible predictive power. And modeling brings us to two really powerful types of analytics. First, you have predictive analytics, which is kind of like looking into a crystal ball. It answers the question, what is likely to happen? But then there's prescriptive analytics, and this takes it a huge step further. It doesn't just predict the future, it actually recommends what you should do to get the best outcome. It answers the question, so what should we do about it? A model's output is just a bunch of numbers and stats. Step 5, interpretation, is where we translate all that technical jargon into a human story. So the big question you have to ask is, what does this actually mean? Finding a statistical correlation is one thing, but turning that into a clear insight like, hey, our customer retention goes up by 20% when we answer support tickets in under 2 hours, that is what drives real change. And that leads us right into step 6, action. Because an insight is totally useless if it just sits on a slide and a report somewhere. This stage is all about taking that knowledge we've uncovered and using it to make a real-world decision,
to change a strategy, to launch a new program, to improve a process. This is where the data finally makes an impact.
So, we found an insight, we acted on it, we're done, right? Not even close. This final section is all about why we call this a cycle and not a straight line. It's about creating a system of continuous learning and improvement.
The final step is monitoring. Once we've made a change, we have to watch what happens. Did that new loyalty program we launched actually increase customer spending? Are our model's predictions still accurate a few months later? This creates a feedback loop. The data from our actions becomes brand new input, and the cycle starts all over again, getting a little bit smarter each and every time. So let's just quickly run through that cycle one more time. We collect the data, we clean it, and we explore it for patterns. Then we use modeling to predict outcomes, we interpret the results into insights, and finally, we act on those insights and monitor the results to keep improving. And hey, if you want a simple way to remember the whole flow, just think collect, clean, explore, model, interpret, act, and monitor. It's a super clear path from raw, messy data to refined, intelligent action. At the end of the day, this isn't just a process for big corporations. It's a powerful way of thinking that you can apply almost anywhere. It could be a business trying to optimize its marketing, or it could be you analyzing your own personal habits. So I'll leave you with a question. Where in your world is there data just waiting to tell its hidden story? Thanks so much for watching.